If you're a small business owner looking to grow or expand your business, check out On Deck Business Loans. On Deck offers business loans online from $5,000 to $500,000, and their simple application process only takes 10 minutes. Unlike banks, they'll give you a decision quickly, and funding is as fast as one day. Get a free consultation with an On Deck loan advisor. Visit ondeck.com/podcast.
This is the Breakfast Leadership Podcast. Boundaries or burnout, you make the choice. Here's your host, Michael Levitt. Welcome to the Breakfast Leadership Podcast. It's Michael here, and today I've got a really dear and close colleague and friend that I met at the New Media Summit not too long ago, Jennifer Lyall. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am so excited and delighted to play with you today.
I am as well. It's great always to chat with you and connect with you. And we met, like I alluded to, at the New Media Summit in February in Tampa, and connected right away, and realized that we're about a half hour apart from each other. So it was amazing. It's like you fly clear across the country, or in our case, to a different country, and you connect with somebody that is just down the street. So always good to connect with like-minded people. One of the things that amazes me about you in the work that you do is you focus so much on how people show up in their lives, and their energy, and how they go about living their life and doing the things that are important. So tell us a little bit about you, and why you find this to be such important work for you, and the impact that you're creating for others.
I got to this place because I felt like my heart was not singing. I started my business back in 2008 as Live Healthy, and I had the intention of inspiring people to be proactive about their health. And I started with a video podcast called Vitamin Junkies that I co-produced and co-hosted with a naturopathic doctor from Toronto. And at that time, I had young kids. I was just starting to learn about wellness, and I was so passionate about it. And I was coming at it from the perspective of, I need to tell people that there's other options for them. I need them to know this. They need to know, and they have to make other choices, almost from this place of wanting to, I feel like saying, almost hit people over the head with a bat of, you're being foolish, you're making stupid choices, do it this way instead. And I was a bit of a control freak, really stressed out. I was staying up late. My kids were young, so I'd be working while they were at school, being mom again when they came home, and then once they got to bed, staying up to 2:00 in the morning. And I remember working with a coach saying, I just want to have 2 minutes to breathe, just 2 minutes. And she's like, go ahead and give yourself 2 minutes. I was like, but I've got so much to do. And that didn't work. My business was really floundering at that time. And in all honesty, my kids were only at school part-time, so I was expecting full-time results when I was only having really part-time and time investment. So I came to this place where I gave myself permission to discover what made my heart sing. And it opened me up to a spiritual wonderland. I discovered meditation. I discovered crystals. I discovered automatic writing. And I was even given my own modality called Connect to You, which inspires people to connect their soul with the heart and mind. And what's fascinating is that through this, there's been an unwinding, a letting go and trusting and realizing that I don't have to control other people. I can inspire them. I can share ideas, but it's totally up to them what they choose to do. And it's okay whether they decide that this is right for them now or in 6 months or never. It's their choice and it's their journey. So there's been a huge letting go that's been part of the process. And what is beautiful in that is it's allowed me to let go more, to have that journey of self-discovery, and to dip my toes into trying new things and sharing my gifts from a new perspective. Because if somebody had told me I'd be doing intuitive work 10 years ago, I would have said they were crazy. But now I cannot imagine doing anything else. because it just makes my heart sing. As I work with clients and I see them come in for a session all tangled up in all of these problems, and whether it's in their business, and I still work with a few clients on more of a personal level, but I can see in their face the stress, and in their words, their tone of voice, the words they choose to use, how entangled they are with these problems and how low they feel. And then by the end of a session, just it can be through conversation, or it can be through actually doing energy work, or helping them just see things from a different perspective. It's like they're sitting up taller. The weight from their shoulders is gone. They look younger because those worry lines are gone, and they feel rejuvenated and empowered again for how to have fun and love light and make different choices. It's just phenomenal.
It's amazing what you've shared there, because again, I see way too many people in the various sectors that I've been in, whether it's education, healthcare, nonprofit, corporate, whatever, where there's this self-disconnect of who they are and what they're doing, and they rob themselves of like you said, making their hearts sing. They're just disconnected. And of course, our mind and our body wants connection, and we want a harmony through everything that we do. And when that is disconnected, they go through life and they encounter so many different hurdles, challenges, all kinds of things, impact their happiness and their joy. And they always feel that they're kind of going against the wind, using a Bob Seger reference, and they're not actually going with the wind and the flow of life and the ride that that life provides.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of strange too. Well, I mean, we have to go through difficulties in order to realize our strength and our potential. And it's how we go through those difficulties. Like if we walk into a room and the light is off and we're like, oh, I can't see anything. This is crazy. I can't see. Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Turn on the freaking light switch. Boom. Oh, that's what I'm looking for. It's right over there. And that light switch is that belief in yourself, that connection that you're talking to, that connection to your soul, to your own inner wisdom, and having the courage to trust it. That's the biggest part. And it's a muscle, right? And it's a muscle, and it's like any other relationship. How do you start to trust somebody new that comes into your life, although your soul's always there with you? How do you learn to trust it when you haven't been listening to those messages from your soul, when you haven't been allowing you to trust? You hear those whispers, but once you start to trust it and you start to see, hey, you know what? They're right. You want to keep listening. And so turning on that light, having that connection nourished and nurtured, is something that I believe that entrepreneurs need to really allow for in their planning of their day. Because we're all superheroes if we allow ourselves to be. But, even a superhero who is out there getting beaten up 24/7, 7 days a week, man, they need time to recoup too. But the superheroes that take the time in their day to actually have lunch, not at your desk, at the table, in the kitchen, wherever, go for a picnic, whatever you're able to do, getting away from your desk, taking an extra few moments when you go to the washroom, taking bathroom breaks, drinking enough water so you need to take bathroom breaks, having a few extra deep breaths as you do that, saying some affirmations maybe as you wash your hands, taking time to take care of you so that you can be the best energy possible as you're taking on tasks and showing up for your clients.
And that's so crucial, because, and a lot of people don't realize this, but our body language, our emotional language, our just how we present and how we are, people can read that. Now, sometimes maybe not consciously, but subconsciously they know. So if you're an entrepreneur and your heart isn't singing, that's going to come through in the products and the services and the way that you communicate with others, the way that you present, the way you engage. It's all in harmony. And if you can get to that point where you are living a life where your heart is singing because you're just enjoying every ounce of life and just feeding off of all that life truly has to offer, that comes through in everything that you do, every conversation you have, your engagement with people. And you talk with people and they say, oh yeah, I met Jennifer, and her energy level is just so amazing, where I feel like she's giving me some of her energy and I'm taking it on too. And now I have more energy. And it's just one of those things where it just starts to percolate, and it just changes everything. And there's no shortage of life challenges and things that happen in our lives that aren't as good as we'd want them to be. But again, when you're going through the challenges of life, if you're doing it from a space of constantly focusing on living your best life and being in a world of joy, and your heart just beating really, really well, both from a physical standpoint, of course, but also from a spiritual and an energy level, it's amazing how different your life is.
Yes. And I love that you use the word harmony. So many people talk about balance, and yet our lives are more like waves. And when you need to have the inflow and the outflow, right? And sometimes, some days the waves are really gentle and beautiful, and sometimes they're tidal waves, and you have to kind of go with it. And there's going to be a balance. It's never always going to be sunshine, roses, and unicorns. There are going to be days when there's going to be thunderstorms and hurricanes, and it's about the strength that you find because you've been focusing. You've had more days where there's been the sunshine and unicorns, that you have the resilience to be able to get through those storms.
And it's like anything, using, like an insurance analogy, many of us have insurance on our property, our homes, cars, whatever, in case something happens. Then that way we can weather that storm. It's the same thing with, living in that life of harmony. We can weather storms a lot easier when we're in that state. I know I say, all the time, and I know you're in alignment with this. It's like balance is such an impossible thing. Yes, something may balance for a second, and I often use the analogy. Actually, it's a Van Halen album, Balance. When Sammy Hagar, it was the last studio album with him as the lead vocalist, and in the liner notes of the CD, there was an image of an egg that was resting on the neck of a guitar. Now, obviously, there's something holding that egg on that thing or on the neck, because it's just a physical impossibility, unless the egg is deformed for some reason, for an egg to balance on anything being vertical. It's going to be on its side. So it's the same thing with trying to balance anything in your life. Yeah, there might be a split second where something is balanced, but it's going to, flip one way or the other. So having a harmony where, using the egg, I guess, where it's, kind of rocking back and forth, or rolling, depending, and hopefully it doesn't crash on the floor. But at the end of the day, if you live your life in a harmonious way, without trying to strive for this balance, because you're one person, work-life balance. You should be the same person at work that you are at home. Okay, maybe not in pajamas, but okay, unless it's pajama day at work, they have that for team building, which is always, HR people really fret that because they're really afraid to see some people in what they deem as pajamas. So another story for another day. But at the end of the day, you're one being. So live in this state of harmony, and again, it makes such a huge difference in everything that you do.
And so let's kind of have a bit of a conversation then. What does a day of harmony look like then? So for me, it's about creating the time and space to take care of you throughout the day. And those days where you feel like you don't have any time for you, those are the days that you need it the most. And there are always, 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 always ways that you can squeeze in little, what I call energy boosters, to boost up your energy. So there's a little process that I love to share with people. It's called my energy check. And it's a quick check-in where you ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? And if the spiritual aspect doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. That's just your personal connection to your faith. If you believe in the universe or God, that's fantastic. If you believe in your higher self, or if it doesn't resonate, then that's fine. Just leave that question off. But it is so surprising, the level of self-awareness that you have as you start to actually pause and ask yourself, how am I? Because we don't realize how different situations impact us, and the energy of those situations linger. Somebody cuts you off on your way into work, and you're still holding that anger in you right through your day as you're having conversations with colleagues. There's a little bit of an edge in your voice, and then you have a difficult situation with something going wrong with a deliverable for a client, and so you're already on edge. So this brings that up more, and then by the time you go home and you talk to your kids, just the littlest thing they do, they step on your foot by accident, and it just sets you off, and you don't even realize that it's all because somebody cut you off in the morning, and you never let go of that energy. So when you can do a pause to check in, this only takes a few minutes, and we can do it right now if you like, even, Michael.
Let's do it.
Okay, so if you were to close your eyes, and if you have a pen and paper handy, just take a few deep breaths to kind of allow yourself to come within, and say to yourself, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel physically? First number that comes to you. And I'll write this down for you even.
Okay. 7.
7, awesome. And any words around why you feel that?
Nasal congestion a little bit today, so my throat's a little sore from that. But other than that, I don't have any other physical ailments, pains, aches, or anything like that. I'm alert. I feel great.
Great, that's awesome, and good awareness. For me, I feel about a 9. I do have a tiny little bit of nagging. I was playing basketball with my kids on the court that we live on, and I skinned my knee really bad, and there's a little bit of little something underlying from that. So that's what keeps it from being at a 10, but that's pretty good. Now, emotionally, if you want to put your hand on your heart, you can. That just helps get your focus there. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel emotionally? First number that comes to you.
I would say 9. And the only reason I didn't give myself a 10 is sometimes, and this is probably bad programming, but I had a boss years and years ago that says, no one is perfect. So he never gave like 10 scores. So I don't think he coaches the Olympics or judges at Olympics, hopefully, because no one would ever get a perfect score. But from an emotional standpoint, I'm really good. Life is good. And I'm happy. Just things are happening in business and clients, and I had great conversations this morning. The weather is getting better. These are all external things, of course, but from an emotional standpoint and how I'm viewing life, I'm absolutely enamored with how things are and how I'm feeling, and just I feel just in this incredible state of flow where when you feel like you're walking on air, just because everything is just flowing so well. It's like, and even not that there hasn't been any issues or things to deal with, there are, but you do it from a non-judgmental state, at least for myself. And it's like, okay, well, we'll do this, and we'll plan for this, and we'll adjust if we need to accordingly, but do it from this non-judgmental state of peace type of state.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love how you express that. What's interesting for me is I rated a 7.5, and that surprised me because I'm really loving this conversation. I'm feeling like I'm on fire. And as I tune in, it's like, oh, why is it 7.5? And it's interesting because this has come up before. This weekend is Mother's Day weekend, and our plans are still up in the air. And I have a background in event planning, and it's like, it's so close to the event and we don't know exactly what's going on. And there's a part of me that's feeling very unsettled for how things are going to flow this weekend. And in order for me to have ease and enjoy Mother's Day weekend with connecting with my mom, my mother-in-law, and having some time to enjoy my time with my family, I'm realizing that it's got me a little wound up more than it needs to be. So that's really interesting. Okay, next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel mentally? So if I was to give you a problem to solve that is in your zone of genius, how easy would it be for you to solve it right now? 10 being easy, 1 being difficult.
I would say 10.
Awesome.
And I had to deal with an issue earlier today at a client site that was an issue. And, even before I talked with, somebody about it, I had 4 or 5, potential solutions or workarounds that just came to my mind naturally. I didn't even have to write them down or discuss anything. We could do this, or this, or this. Now, there may be some additional options or opportunities based on the conversation that I'll have in a bit, but it's when you're in that, again, state of flow, it's like, oh, here's an issue. And all of a sudden, here's 5 solutions for it. Like, wow. I mean, that's like going to a buffet.
Yeah.
Which one do I want to pick? And then you thankfully they tell you to bring a clean plate every time so you can pick them all if you want. It's not good for your waistline, but it's fun at the time.
I love it. And what I love the most is that you allowed yourself to rate yourself a 10, even though in the previous one you shared a 9 and you shared the story around how no one's perfect. And so that leads me to wonder, is there something that is more emotionally tied to that story? Because with the mentally 10, you're able to give yourself 10 without any hesitation. So.
Yeah, definitely something to look into.
Yeah. For me, a 9 for mentally, and still feeling fantastic, feeling really good and really excited for the day. And then the last one is spiritually. So whatever your faith is, how connected do you feel to that faith? How much do you trust your intuition? How much are you in that state of flow?
I would give it a 10. And I think the reason being for that higher score is, knowing, through the challenges that, that I faced in my life and my career, personally, professionally, and all of that, and ups and downs and all of that, throughout it, I can look back and say, you know what, I've made it through all of that because I had faith that I would, and I knew that I would. And when you have that confidence, whether it's from within or external praise or your faith, and knowing that you're going to be able to weather any storm that you face because you wouldn't face it if you weren't able to. And having that as a foundation really makes a big difference in my life, and knowing that. And I think to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, it's one of those things when you get through a thing, you'd be thankful that you've got through that experience. But a big thing that helps is, be thankful when things are going really, really well as well. Don't just pass it off. Be in the moment and actually embrace all the awesome things that are happening in life. And because for me, it just puts that out there. It's like, yes, I can handle all of this positive things in my life, which just, brings on more positivity and more things that are positive in your life. And it just continues to expand.
Oh,
and it just makes life so rich.
It does. That was so delicious. And for me, spiritually, I got a 9.5. So really much so in that state as well. So as you do this little check-in, for me, if my number is not at least at a 7, then I need to take a pause and do something to boost me up. Or if it's something that has me feeling ill, like maybe I just got a bout of food poisoning. Okay, well, that's not going to shift necessarily in 5 minutes or 20 minutes. You need to actually take the time to nurture yourself and go lie down and truly take care of yourself. So then you would rearrange your day to match where your energy levels are. So having this self-awareness allows you to better plan your day. As you do this more often, you can start to identify, you know what, I didn't realize this before, but I'm a real rock star those mornings when I get up at 5 a.m. and then I get like stuff done before 9 a.m. And that's when I'm actually most productive. And you can structure your day around that. Or you might find out that you're a genius at like 3 o'clock, and that's when you're just starting to get your mojo. And you can structure your day around that. Or maybe you're just more creative or mentally focused and just assign those tasks or block the time to do those tasks during those areas, during that time frame. So it's about having the self-awareness, nurturing yourself when you see that your numbers are low, or better yet, as you expand your self-awareness, doing things to make sure your numbers are high, having a practice of something that you do to take care of yourself every single day. So you start off high, but also take care of yourself throughout the day. I call those energy boosters.
Yeah, it's crucial. And knowing when your optimum time is to do things is crucial. For me, I know that when I'm up earlier, I tend to get things done in the office or at a client site or whatnot. I get those, quote unquote, heavy lifting things done, and that frees me up for afternoons of meetings or calls or other things where my energy levels are more. One way I describe it is, in the morning I'm an extrovert, in the afternoon I tend to be more introverted, and from a listening and still communicating with people and whatnot, but it's just something that I've discovered over my life is that mornings I tend to be a lot more productive. And I didn't always drink coffee, so I'm not going to use that as an excuse. And there are mornings I don't drink coffee. Or maybe if I want something, I'll have decaffeinated coffee, which makes my cardiologist happier when I do that. So keeps him in line. But no, that was a wonderful exercise, and I think it's great for everybody to follow up on that kind of stuff. So I've really enjoyed our conversation today, Jennifer, as always. And where can people find out more about you and the awesome stuff you're doing?
They can visit my website, jlyall.com. And if they'd like to have a more of a walkthrough on this process for checking in and transforming their energy, they can visit jlyall.com/energy, jlyall.com/energy.
Awesome. And I'll have all that information in the show notes. So Jennifer, thanks again for being you and all the awesome stuff that you're doing.
And thank you for you being you too.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And until next time, everybody, be well.
Hey, it's Michael again. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. If you're like many people, you're dealing with some significant stress and possibly approaching burnout. I know how you feel. In 2009, my burnout led to a year of worst-case scenarios. I do not want that to happen to you. If you go to breakfastleadership.com, you can register for a free webinar on burnout prevention, as well as get a free checklist to have successful mornings. Start off each day the right way. Again, that's at breakfastleadership.com. Also, since you are a loyal podcast listener, I'm asking you to like, rate, and review my podcast on iTunes. I look at all the reviews and appreciate your comments, and it helps other potential listeners discover the content I have on the show. I appreciate you, and thanks again for listening.